What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'll be your host and producer, Logan Landers, and join me here today to answer the question of what did Darrell Royal mean to the Red River rivalry? He's my guy from the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network, and I will say he does have a bias in this game. Being a Texas fan, of course, the rivalry game between Texas and Oklahoma. Another chapter is going to be written this upcoming weekend. It's going to be it's coming up soon, Jay. It's going to be a fun game. But we're looking back in history here. We're looking at a man in Darrell Royal, Jay, who, as you know, he played at Oklahoma in the mid to late 40s, and then later on in his career in the mid to late 50s, and then through 76 became the head coach at Texas. So he's seen both sides of the ball for both of these teams. So what were your thoughts on Darrell Royal and what he meant to this historic rivalry in college football?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, man, if anybody meant anything to the Red River shootout, it was Darrell Royal. And I'll get more into that here in a second. You know, the guy was born. I mean, it's interesting to me, Logan. As we were doing all these players and what they meant to the Red River shootout, it seems like Texas and Oklahoma, as much as they hated each other, and they still hate each other in this series, the fact that we shared players between states is just incredible. And you may even say that Texas gave Oklahoma more players to use against us than they gave us. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about Mr. Royal and what he meant. And, you know, to start off, Darrell Royal, you know, he was actually born in Oklahoma, 5 miles on the other side of the border in a little town called Hollis. Hollis, Oklahoma is where he was from. And he actually applied, I want to say, well, I'll get back to that here in a second. Let me go back to what I think about Darrell Royal. The passion and emotion in this guy is amazing. You know, what he brought to Oklahoma when he was a player, what he brought to Texas as a coach. You clearly saw his passion and oftentimes his hatred for the other team showed up. Especially one specific game was when they went 6-6. And I want to say it was in 76, I believe, when they went 6-6. And Logan, you can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was 76 when the tie was. And one thing about Darrell Royal was he never wanted a tie. He didn't believe in ties. And so that was a huge thing for him. When he was leaving the Air Force, Logan, some people may or may not know this about Darrell Royal. He did go to the Army Air Corps. And when he was leaving the Air Force, he had his buddy, Kenny Baker, who was a freshman at University of Texas, write a letter for him recommending that he be allowed to come on scholarship and play for the Longhorns. Well, he never heard back from them. So what does he do? He obviously does the second best choice, which is Oklahoma, and goes and plays for the Sooners ultimately as a player. That's how he got to Oklahoma. He didn't want to go to Oklahoma. It's just Texas didn't really give a damn about him at the time, and so they allowed him to basically go to the Sooners, and where he played out his career. Now, while playing at OU, he went 2-2 in the series versus Texas as a player. So he never really had he never had. I mean, it was an even series, right, out of 4 games. So he never really had the competitive advantage of going like 3-1. Right. Or anything like that. But I guess it's better than going 0-4. So if you look at it from that perspective, I guess that Billy doesn't really like ties. And in my mind, for him, I'm thinking if he doesn't like ties, 2-2 probably isn't necessarily the record he wanted to have, you know. So I don't really know how much that ate at him, only going 2-2 and not actually having the capital advantage, especially when he applied for a team that he wanted to go to and never heard. That's like a slap in the face to Darrell. And the fact that, you know, you had to imagine him, he really wanted to go 4-0 probably against Texas just to show them, hey, you should have brought me, right? I mean, it doesn't say that specifically, but I'm just thinking in my mind, that's got to be, because he is so compassionate and so competitive that you got to imagine that's going through his brain. He was convinced Oklahoma was spying on Texas, Logan. I don't know. Before Bill Belichick was doing Spygate, Billy Royal Darrell Royal. Names all could be. Darrell Royal was actually convinced that OU was actually spying not only on Texas, but that they were spying on other opponents. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. he put a specific play in called the quick kick in the offense back in 1972 game. And he made one substitution, one sub in the game that he brought in. And as soon as he brought that substitution in, immediately Oklahoma players start yelling, quick kick, quick kick, quick kick. Now, how would they know it was called quick kick number one? Unless they had been spying. And to take that a little further, Royal offered, I want to say it was Barry Switzer and Lacewell, $10,000 to take a lie detector to prove that they weren't spying. And I don't think that lie detector ever came to fruition. But you got to think, man, it happened because he was so convinced that he believes that OU had Lucius Selman, disguised as construction worker, come into that game and spy. I'm just trying to say, what a hell of a thing, right? I mean, the Red River Shootout, you got Spygate, you got Darrell back and forth. I mean, there's so many amazing storylines behind Darrell Royal and what he meant to the Red River Shootout and what the Red River Shootout meant to him. I mean, he really was very, very entrenched on both sides of it, right? On Texas and on OU side.
Yeah, he definitely made his mark, right? I mean, like you said, he played in it back in the 40s as a player for Oklahoma, and then as you said, man, whenever he was at Texas as a head coach for, I mean, all of those years, right, and leading them to really great programs, he was able to kind of get some comeuppance, right, and beat up on his old team. But I mean, we talked about Darrell Royal, extensively. Just his career in the past, and it's impressive, right? Just his resume, the championships he won, in the late 60s and won in 70, the Southwestern Conference championships as well. But this is different type of hate here, Jays. And these teams have been playing for a long, long time, since 1900. That's the first one, not 1990, not 1980, not 1900. Pretty much as far back as you can think of college football, these two teams have been playing each other. And like I said, Darrell Royal was obviously a big part of that on both ends of the ball, both as a quarterback for Oklahoma and then becoming a head coach at Texas. And he definitely made his mark, right? He made his mark on both ends, on both sides. And, I mean, you have to bring him up whenever you're talking about the history aspect and who were some of the most important people to this rivalry. And Darrell Royal was a big factor for many, many years with the Red River rivalry. And I'm glad we were able to shine some light on him today as these two teams gear up. What you got?
I just want to kind of touch on what you just said a second ago, the history of this rivalry. Like you said, it started out in 1900. That was the first game officially at OU. The Red River Shootout really, truly did not start until 1929. 1929 is really credited as when it became the Red River Shootout. And up until 2023, there have been 119 games of the Red River Shootout since then. And the one thing I want to point out, though, one last thing I want to point out about Coach Royal is that he went 12-7-1 and was the winningest coach in the Red River Shootout series. And, of course, the one was in 1976, and he absolutely just detests.
I know. It was that tie, and like you said, that was his final year as coach of Texas, and ended on a tie. And also he ended it with Texas on a losing streak as well, right? So it was Texas has won a few, right? They went on a winning streak. Oklahoma got one in there in 66. Then Texas came back, Jay, won 4 of them from 67 through 70. And then Oklahoma was dominating, right? They were looking great from 71 through 75. They got 5 wins there. And then, like you said, that 6-6 tie in 76 was kind of a whimper of a final chapter for Darrell Royal. But I mean, hey, it's he's an interesting personality for sure, and definitely made a big mark on both teams, both as a player and as a coach. And I'm glad we were able to shine some light on him today and just how important he was to both the University of Oklahoma as well as UT. All right, Jay, I appreciate it, my friend, my brother, of course, from the Elite Sports Entertainment Network. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, get out there, go and watch some college football. We'll talk to you again on another